Hey, what's up, everybody? Today we're looking at Homo Sapiens Rediscovered, the Scientific Revolution Rewriting Our Origins by British archaeologist Paul Pettitt. First, I'd like to address a channel called Passage of Time for bringing this book to my attention. Passage of Time is a booktube channel, and the channel's owner, Erica, has a passion for history, especially early human history, including some of our relatives like the Neanderthals. Besides prehistory and archaeology and stuff, she also features plenty of fiction titles, but she did go to school for. Uh, Actually, I'm not clear on that, but I know it's related to archaeology or paleontology. So check out Passage of Time for a lot of good, up to date information on books like Homo Sapiens Rediscovered. And thank you to Erica. I really enjoyed this book, and I'll be looking forward to seeing more recommendation videos on your channel. Also, do you guys know of any really good books on this subject? If you've read any really good books on ancient humans, I would love to hear about them. So, Homo Sapiens Rediscovered by Paul Pettitt. This book covers many aspects of life, mostly in Europe during the Upper Paleolithic. This is toward the end of the Pleistocene, just before, during, and after the last glacial maximum, about 20,000 years ago, all the way up to the Neolithic, about 10,000 years ago. The changing environment is shifting the ecological niches around, and everyone is doing their best to adapt and take advantage. It's a very exciting time for the advancement and the spread of our species. The book is called Homo Sapiens Rediscovered, but a reality of the Upper Paleolithic was that we shared it with other hominids like Neanderthals and the Denisovans, but they only got one chapter between the two of them in this book. The book really focuses on Homo sapiens culture. It's about what it was like for us during the Upper Paleolithic. How were we making our living? What kinds of tools were we manufacturing and using? And what sorts of customs did we have surrounding concepts like death and art? Most importantly, how do we know these things? This is where it goes from an interesting book to absolutely worth reading. Pettit covers some of the techniques scientists use, things like molecular analysis, but when discussing somewhat contentious questions like what happened to the mammoths or how did humans reach North America and how long ago, the author will present some of the different hypotheses that people have come up with, and he'll point out their strengths and weaknesses. I'd also like to add that I thought Paul Pettitt is a very good writer. While covering things in an engaging way, he strikes a perfect balance between poetic writing and simply delivering information. I found myself consciously thinking, wow, I really like the way he put that. He had me thinking about a lot of this stuff in ways I never had before, like the way he writes about cave paintings. It's so much more than just talking about cave paintings. Pettit will go into detail describing and asking what it must have been like inside an ancient men's minds as they were trekking deep into a cave, maybe with a companion or two, the only light source, little flames from their fat oil lamps they carry, dancing and flickering, each casting shadows onto dimly lit walls. He'll talk about sounds reverberating through the cave and the rocky and often treacherous footing on the cave floors. You're scouting the rocky and flowing walls for the right spot for the design you have in mind before you prepare your red ochre mixtures. I found the chapter on caves to be especially awe-inspiring. This was a book that I looked forward to reading anytime I wasn't reading it. Another nice thing about this book is the specificity of time. Often with books on subjects like this, they'll cover such a huge span of time. With this book, it's clear that you'll be reading about the time from the Upper Paleolithic to the beginning of the Neolithic. And this was the first book I've read on this specific period of time, and I really enjoyed it. And as I said, I found Pettit's writing style to be very inviting. This book was written for any audience. If this is an area that you've already spent a lot of time studying, I really think you'd still enjoy the book for Pettit's insights and his style, though you may not get as much out of it as everyone else. Each chapter looks at a specific subject, whether that's woolly mammoths or climate or the domestication of wolves. at the end of each chapter, he does a transition paragraph into the next chapter, and I always love it when authors do that. This book didn't feature end chapter recaps, but it's not really necessary with a book like this because the chapters aren't very long. But you do get 18 of them, so it's a nice broad scope of topics. The subject of art is heavily featured in this book, and art is a big part of human culture. So if you're a person who's interested in art, you're really going to appreciate the author's insights on the Upper Paleolithic art. One of the reasons I picked this book is because it's so new, having just came out last year. Things can change pretty rapidly in these fields, so I find myself having to be more selective about which books I buy. This book talks about the most modern work that scientists do, especially with things like genetic analysis, mass spectrometry. Being able to do more with less is important in archaeology because a lot of the techniques used will damage the fossils and the artifacts. Between things like this, the personal narrative, and the sense of reverence surrounding the material, this was just a really well-written book. You get a sense of the author's passion, which is something that I've mentioned several times on this channel. That goes a long way with me, if done well, as this book was. The book features plenty of black and white pictures and maps, and it also has about 16 pages of color pictures. Most of the color sections in this book are photographs and not paintings like this one, but I just thought this was such a cool picture. This is a depiction of a mammoth hunt during the early domestication of wolves, which may have been the first domesticated animal. Okay, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, this was such an interesting time of human history, and these are our ancestors. This stuff really happened. It's hard to conceive of life so different from our own in such a distant time, but this was a reality for most of human history. And I thought Pettitt did a very nice job of putting the reader in the upper Paleolithic. I saw that there's also a book called The Neanderthals Rediscovered. It's by a different author, but you can expect a review for that one too. So don't forget to check out Passage of Time for some good archaeology, paleontology, and anthropology book recommendations, and you'll definitely want to check out Homo Sapiens Rediscovered by Paul Pettitt.